Month of May. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Digging on some Motown before I went downtown live. Hey, how there you go. How I didn't like that one. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, feeling mighty fine, and I hope that you are as well. Welcome, one and all. Thank you, moderators. Let me just speak favor over everybody. May there be nothing missing, nothing broken in your life, and anything that is, well, this will be the year to get it all in balance. You got a 2020 looking at you. And boy, we're heading headlong into it, about to check off the month of January. Yeah. How is everybody? Hope everyone is doing in a fine state of being. Yeah, state of being can be in a lot of different states of consciousness, but we hope it's the optimum one. And hey, man, I had a show planned out, but Roger from North Carolina, I think that is, sent me something. And as I got into it, he happened to send it at about the right time. And I went, hey, you know what? This has got to get out there. We got to talk about this. We need to talk about this. In fact, I will be talking about this on my radio show tonight over at artistfirst.com, 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Mountain. And we're going to get into it even more. It's amazing, folks. If you live long enough, you begin to see things, particularly if you freed your mind, and you can free your mind at any age. The older you get, the little more difficult it becomes. But I can tell you this, if you keep your mind open, you see, it's like the mighty river flows. You will always go. A reed never breaks in a wind, but an oak tree will fall over. Well, hell, Wayne, that was profound. Hello, everyone. Hey, Julianne Payne from Down Under. How you doing? Miss Lois, Cajun Queen Tarot, Susie Q. I know you. And Hillard, good to see you. Brandy, you're a fine girl. Good to see you. Sarah, hello. Blue Angel, I think Agape Love Forever. Good to see you. Infant Frequencies, saw your email before I went live. How are you doing? Cereal Dog, woof, from Kansas. Hey, Kent Cook, how you doing, my friend? David Castle, Lost in Space. Paul Joe, good to see you as well. Marcia Price, my love, how are you doing? Bianca, hello, my dear. She's a teacher as well, folks. She teaches a lot of what I bring out here. I am Nancy. How are you doing? From Missouri. Well, good to see you. Welcome. Marguerite, hello. The Searcher, aren't we all? Wow, there's a lot of people. Mark, good to see you. Scotty boy. Yes, indeed. So let's get our favorite libation, yeah, whatever it may be. Oh, I love that tea. Yeah. And, you know, it's just good stuff. It's good for you anyway, buy it. So let's see. Jill, good to see you. Is good. Finally live. Well, good to have you. And Max Vision. So Julesy, good to see you. Zerloth, we're actually going to be having him on. I think it's him. I believe it is. But if I'm wrong, and that's liable to happen. That's what the experience is here, folks. You know, when you look at your life, is it really about right and wrong, or is it really about the experience? You're the only one that can experience your experience. We can all be on the same ride, but each of us are going to have a different thrill in how we react to it. Yeah. And we all love going to carnivals. That's why people love amusement parks, because it amuses us. And isn't it interesting? The more scarier, the more riskier the perception of the ride, the better we like it. Tells you something about us. Yes. So, Gilbert Smith, good to see you. All right, let's get right into this. This is just I'm telling you, when I read through this, and there's about 100 pages that I read this morning. It's I go, son of a bitch. You know what? I almost going to go, well, that doesn't surprise me. Then I'm going, what? At least that was my reaction. And I'll be curious to see if this is not your reaction. So, always what we like to do here, we always like to kind of pull up our central theme in our presentation. We're going to be talking about this woman, Somerset Belenoff. She's 2 years older than I am. And this person is, I will give her the title of being the most interesting person I think that lives on the planet. That's a bold statement, but check this out and you'll see what I mean. Because I grew up with rock and roll. I grew up with one particular group. Many of you did, Led Zeppelin. Now, here is an interesting story we're going to learn about here today. We're going to learn a little bit more about Miss Somerset, but we're going to find out her relationship with both Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. Yeah. Folks, get strapped in. If you've never heard this before, this is going to be worth it. Yeah. I mean, now that I look back and you look at Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, 3, and 4, there was a progression, particularly with these 4 albums. There is, in fact, well admitted now that between Led Zeppelin 1, 2, 3, and then getting into Led Zeppelin 4, and that album is very, very magical. When you look at Led Zeppelin 1, go and listen to it. It has the sound of the ancient shamans. And as the group progressed, and we're going to see what that progression really was, how it reflected in their music. We're going to find a little story about Glamis Castle. This probably is the central vortex of the world, if one exists. And I do believe more than one does exist, but I happen to think that this may be the most powerful one on the planet. Because we have definitely entered into the Hall of Mirrors. It's going to be difficult to determine which door we eventually take, but we will be taking a door nevertheless. And it's going to be a surprise. So a little kind of just something here, I love how these sites do this because they really do a good job of giving the mind coitus. There's 2 elements to this story that we're going to need to get into. And allow me to pull this up in sequence so you can understand who we're dealing with. I'll give you the quote because we're going to come up on this real quick. You'll see it yourself. Give me 1 second. I got a lot of these files open. Let me just start out with what Ms. Belenoff said to the late Reverend Billy Graham. I've met your devil, sir, and frankly, I was not impressed. Lucifer is a third-rate demonic entity who relies on his biblical fame in an attempt to hold onto power. The pathetic fool once offered to give me the world on a silver platter in return for my immortal soul. I told him I already have the world. I have the silver platter, and I have no need for his silly trinkets. I told him if he annoyed us further, I would take his eyes out. And he left. And I was 13 years old. Who are we talking about? Give me 1 second here. I'm in several different things. Now, 13 years old, you tell the personification that has been invented, but nevertheless, I do believe exist, because that's what we do. We create things. We create our gods. We create our magic. We create our afterlife. It's what we do. We're creative beings. They just keep us so snowed on that. And what they do is they program us, and they program us to be sick, depressed, poverty, poor, and always wanting something more. Yeah, that's how it's done. Now you think about this, girl, ladies in watching in the chat room. Imagine you being 13 and meeting Lucifer face to face. You think that this is a make-believe story? Get ready, kids, because we're about to take a step into this person's life that is nothing less than freaking amazing. She writes, I pull the strings and the elite dance. Somerset Belenoff, Countess of Banbury and Aaron. Little background in Miss Somerset. Her name is Somerset Belenoff, Countess of Banbury and Aaron, chairs the World Governing Council, and is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, of the World Security Office. Sounds important, doesn't it? It's because it is. Which is the prosecutorial and enforcement arm of the House of Witten's upper chamber. Well, if you've got prosecution powers and enforcement powers, there ain't too much more power that you could really ask for. This is a powerful cabal that controls all of the elite Illuminati groups familiar to researchers. And again, thank you, Roger. Mind-blowing stuff, my friend. This is serious coitus of the mind. She is the registered owner of the Bohemian Grove domain name and is likely the owner of the actual property where Bohemian Grove is located. If you don't know about Bohemian Grove, we'll do a story, but I'll just save you the time. Just go over to InfoWars and check out Alex Jones and his archives. Alex did it. He's the only one that I know that actually snuck in on the day of the sacrifice to Moloch. Some say Lilith. I lean more to Lilith because Lilith is actually the original one who had the personification of the owl. But, you know, everyone has their different points of view. Now, they say we know who's going to be the next president because they always end up here. Who knows? She attended Benenden School, of which Princess Anne is also an alumnus. I know Princess Anne. Anyway, Vladimir Putin has said that the Countess of Banbury is both the most beautiful woman and the most terrifying person he has ever met. If you look at the personality profile of Vladimir, does that sound, you know, that's saying something. She rules the House of Witten's upper chamber with an iron fist and is likely responsible for the execution of dozens of Illuminati. We will see the section of Purge the Princes on There Will Be Blood, and boy, yeah. The most recent executions are those of 3 elite international bankers murdered in California in May 2018. And I have, just to show you, their death certificate, or the accounting for, there it is. And we'll get into this more. But it's important that, yeah, this gets really weird. Through statements and actions over the years, Belenoff has made it very clear that she considers groups such as the Bilderbergs, Council of Foreign Relations, that's Kissinger and his group, the Trilateral Commission, etc., to hold a lower position in the cabal than those born into nobility. She refers to these lesser Illuminati members as grubby, downstairs staff, inferior in rank, in intellect, common sense, and breeding. Holy crapola, folks. You want to talk about an elite? When you're telling the others who think they're the elites that they are grubby, nothing more than downstairs staff, cleaning the toilets and taking the crap out, inferior in rank, intellect, common sense, and breeding. No matter what your money is, you ain't got the blood, baby. You can't buy your way in. And that's what she is saying to them. Has suggested that these newly moneyed lesser Illuminati should be accustomed to living in mud huts with dirt floors, as befitting their actual rank. What the freak? Oh, okay. Has been closely associated with the occult from the very early age, claims to have met the devil at Glamis Castle when she was a child, and frankly was not impressed. And you folks are sometimes tormented by little piss ants. And take on what this woman's got, and I'll guarantee you this, they'll be kissing your ass. Is the great-granddaughter of Gregory Rasputin and the great-great-great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria. Travels regularly to the Kremlin, the White House, and of course, Buckingham Palace. She arrives unannounced and without an invitation, and she is probably the only person in the world who does this uninvited, yet completely welcomed in all locations. I wonder how Donald Trump would compare with his spiritual advisor, Paula White, to Miss Belenoff. Oh, I'd pay to go see that. Oh, yes. Yes. All right, I digress. She was the driving force behind the rise of Mikhail Gorbachev in the Soviet Union and the ultimate fall of the Soviet Communist Party. She refers to the international communism as a filthy cabal full of incompetent, lazy dogs who should be thrown from the castle walls at our earliest convenience. Bernie Sanders, that's what she thinks of you, sweetheart. Yeah. Hey. And Miss Warren, be ready. She ordered Barack Obama to bring down the government of Muammar Gaddafi and told him to be sure that the dictator would be shot in the street like a dog. And he was. Now, let's talk about this Glamis Castle. Her early life and childhood. Elizabeth Somerset Fedorovna, I think that's Fedorovna, Bowles Lyon Belenoff, born May 1st, 1953, is a British aristocrat born at Glamis Castle, Scotland, a well-known location to veteran Illuminati researchers. She shared a strong bond with the late Queen Mother and is a favorite cousin to Queen Elizabeth II, where within the hierarchy of British nobility, she holds the rank of Countess, having been granted that title by Queen Elizabeth II in 1979. Was when she was appointed to represent the UK in the House of Witten's upper chamber. Her official title is Countess of Banbury and Arran. Note, for the sake of convenience, we will simply refer to Belenoff, the Countess. I mean, you get that name. Owing to persistent intermarriage among European upper class over many generations, Belenoff is connected to the Dukes of Somerset in England, the Earls of the Strathmore in Scotland, the Imperial House of Russia, and the historical House of Witten, of which the House of Windsor is a candidate junior branch. She is the great-granddaughter of Rasputin and Princess Elizabeth of Hesse and by Rhine, who was the granddaughter of Queen Victoria. This means that Miss Belenoff is the great-great-great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria, as are Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Philip, and Queen's husband. Counting only her holdings, and this is 2 years old, I believe, from the surname mining and real estate assets she inherited from her industrialist father, Belenoff's personal fortune is estimated to be at least $14 billion. As a child, she was known to spook family members and guest with casual, factual statements about long-dead relatives who had died in Glamis Castle, only referring to them by nicknames used for them when they were alive. On one occasion, according to Princess Margaret, when Belenoff was 8 years old, she joined a grown-up card game and played extremely well, winning several hands. When the astonished adults asked her how she learned to play so well, she replied that she had been playing cards on a regular basis with the Earl Bertie in a hidden room within the castle since she was 3 years old. Earl Bertie can beat the devil at cards, she announced, and sometimes I can beat the devil too. Earl Beatty is distant relative of the current royal family who lived in Glamis Castle and died there in 1486. Now, I'm going to break here because we're going to get into something that is going to be just weird. It's like this could get any weirder, right? I told you this is some wild stuff. How many of you knew so far of Miss Belenoff and her history? You're about to find out something that I'm just amazed at. And here we go. So let's talk about her relationship with the boys in the band. Now, a little background story here, just to let you know. The story of the Pied Piper is very much tied to one which has been called the greatest rock and roll song ever written, Stairway to Heaven. Apparently, Miss Belenoff appears to have an unusual connection to the German town of Hamelin in German, If the name sounds familiar, it may be because you've heard it mentioned in the legend of Pied Piper, who is alleged to have led away all the village children over 700 years ago. Every year on June 26, a post appears on the Glamis Calling blog, and I've logged in, and they say that if you get there, anyway, that commemorates the Hamlin tragedy. It may seem touching or even sweet, the idea of she's 67 now, year-old woman who believes in the terrible legend and is moved to post a comment on her blog to remind the world that children are precious and we must never let something like this happen again. But when you actually view the post and listen to the audio, it isn't touching at all. It's really, really creepy. Instead of messages of comfort, the post may be better interpreted as a condemnation of the parents who allowed their children to be taken away. Worse, one gets the feeling that Miss Belenoff may be mocking the village. Why emphasize parental negligence in a case that happened 700 years ago, if at all? Now, here's where the Led Zeppelin boys get involved. Like so many things surrounding the Somerset Belenoff, the real story behind her connections to Hamlin and the Pied Piper is an enigma. But it is interesting to note that according to the late Peter Graham, manager of Led Zeppelin, the song Stairway to Heaven is about Miss Belenoff and includes references to her that were well known to people in London's art and music scene. We mention this here because the song also includes the words, "The Piper's calling you to join him," an obvious reference to her connection to the Pied Piper of Hamlin. Graham told Melody Maker Music that the lyrics about the May Queen refers directly to Miss Belenoff, and that she is the lady who is buying the Stairway to Heaven. In the 1960s, Belenoff was known informally within the London art scene as the May Queen, most likely because May 1st is her birthday, and she was known as a sort of magical, carefree, regale person. I'd have dated her if I was in London at that time and been around. But wait a minute, that meant I would have had to have been with the formation of Led Zeppelin, and that didn't happen, folks. All right, it goes on to say that, I don't want to get into this part. Now, this is the interview that Peter gave Melody Mix Music. Always a critic of Aleister Crowley and his associates, Miss Belenoff is said to have referred to Crowley's Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn as the pathetic order of the Golden Yawn. In the summer of 1969, she was introduced to former Crowley colleague in what turned out to be sort of a sorcery showdown that brought about the destruction of the resurrected order. Led Zeppelin's manager, Peter Grant, recounted the story to the weekly British music magazine Melody Maker. He says, "Well, I know the Countess when she was 16, old because she was a countess, and because before the whole Witten World Governing Council stuff, she was one of the beautiful young people who orbited the rock and roll scene back in the 60s, and we were a pretty rough lot. She was called Lilibert back then, sort of a nickname for Elizabeth, which is actually her first name. At first we thought, she's the Queen's cousin. She's beautiful, and we like having her around, but we have to look after her. Protect her for some of these predatory guerrillas around us. She'd go away to school in China. She was majoring in mathematics, already at university, really advanced for her age. Or she'd leave for a few weeks up to Glamis or to Clarence House in London, and then she'd pop back into our lives every couple of months. And she and Jimmy Page used to have these friendly occult challenges where they sat across from each other to see who could make the other person's chair fall over. Silly games like that. And I remember one thing, she could do that. Jimmy could not. She could actually literally drop the temperature in the room. One day, we all went up to Hampstead, where some of Jimmy's Golden Dawn associates had a big old spooky house. These geezers were former students of Aleister Crowley, and they had a new magical circle called the Resurrected Circle of the Golden Dawn, or some such shite. And Jimmy wanted to introduce them to Lilibet, Miss Belenoff. Well, we get there, and there's this intense feeling of dread and darkness. I mean, man, I'm talking like pure evil in the house. And it didn't seem right to bring a young girl to such a place. So introductions were made, and we all sat around in chairs like in a circle, and she and Jimmy and the three old geezers started doing the challenge thing like she used to do with Jimmy. And she and Jimmy had always been about equal in their abilities. You know, folks, Jimmy Page is a master wizard. FYI, just want to let you know that. Now, these old guys were like the real old school evil sorcerers. And straight away, they start moving their hands around in the air. And you can see Lilibet's chair starting to shake. Like I said, Jimmy and I were both very protective of Lilibet. So we're feeling pretty bad about how this is starting to go down. You know, like it was supposed to be friendly competition. But these guys, they were taking it to another level. Then one of the guys starts making a gesture with his hand, his right hand, like it in a choking motion, and pointing it towards Lilibet's throat. And you can see it's having an effect on her. So Jimmy and I both decide to get up from our chairs to end this. But we can't move. We can't stand up, and we can't even move our hands. At first, when they did this, you can see Lilibet's face, and she has this shocked look, and then she relaxes, and she gets a smile on her face, like, she's regained control. And at the same time, the old sorcerer geezers are getting more agitated and gesturing more intensely. The other thing everyone notices, it's starting to get really, and you see it, blanking fucking cold in the house. Now, you have to remember, it's the middle of July. It's one of those hot, muggy London nights, but now all of a sudden it's getting really, really cold. It's not like before when Lilibet used to drop the temperature in the room when she and Jimmy were just fooling around with the occult. This was like Siberia freaking cold, and it's getting worse, colder and colder still. And the old geezers start complaining, I can't feel my hand. Every window and everything made of glass has frost on it now, and we can see our breath, except Lilibet. She appeared to be totally relaxed, and in no visible frosty breath coming out of her mouth. As it gets even colder, the old guys are starting to panic, but they're unable to get up from their chairs. Then Lilibet, doesn't that look like Lilith, gets a look of complete satisfaction on her face, and she stands up and throws her arms into the air. And at that very moment, everything made of glass explodes. The crystal in my watch, the spectacles of the old sorcerer sitting on my left, absolutely beautiful. Century-old stained glass windows. Every piece of china in the house, which had been frozen, just explodes in a loud, very violent eruption. One of the old sorcerers had a glass eye, and it is just awful to see what happened to it. The old geezer that had been making the choking motions with his right hand had been complaining that he could not feel his hands. And I swear to Christ, as I sit here, the bones inside his freaking hand shattered as though they had been made of glass, and his hand was just a bloody pulp. And understand, all of this is happening within a second of Lilibet standing up and throwing her hands into the air. It was like she broke down her own spell and shattered everything that had been frozen. The two other things happened at the same time. The room became warm again immediately, and after everything shattered or exploded, and at the same moment, the radio in the corner of the room came on and started playing that song by Loving Spoonful. Do you believe in magic in a young girl's heart? Then Lilibet does a little spin and a bow with this innocent smile as she leans down over the old sorcerer with the shattered hand and the one with the shattered eyeglass. She says, "That, gentlemen, is the way we do it up at the Glamis." The geezer with the shattered hand, his skin is a bloody pulp with sharp bones shattered inside, is screaming at Lilibet and saying, "You've destroyed my hand, you little dirty she-devil." And Lilibet says to him, "Maybe you should remember this the next time you try to strangle a young girl." After that, I realized that Lilibet's occult abilities had progressed far, far beyond anything that we had imagined, and she didn't need anyone's protection. Later, we asked her where she had learned such powerful sorcery, and she said from her friends within the walls of Glamis Castle. Several months later, she and I were driving together, and my car broke down in a really dangerous, dodgy part of London. And Lilibet said to me, "Don't worry, Peter. I won't let anything happen to you." That was 25 years ago. And to me, to all of us who know her, she is still sweet Lilibet. How about that, folks? Huh? Seriously? Is that the most wildest story you have heard? I mean, it just opens up for me a whole bunch of questions, particularly where Led Zeppelin is concerned. Who knew that there was an occult band, and many of them are, that gained the popularity? I'm just trying to read the chat room. You can't do that while you're talking. Now, you music aficionados like myself, many of you are, makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, I can remember Robert Plant singing Starway to Heaven, and how it was really, truly, as I look back at it, more occultish than anything that I was realizing at the time. And now that both of them, as you can see, knew Somerset, knew her personally, they were friends. Rumors are there was a little twist there with, one of the band members, who knows? But folks, this gets deep. This really gets deep. And she is supposedly, by her own admission, the top dog here. We got time. Let me pull up the story that really makes this kind of really interesting. So the three guys that they put out, that got basically, all right. So here we go. I got it pulled up. This is a weird one. Now, it tells you that there are things that yet escape us all, obviously. All right, so let's read what happened in 2018. In 2018, the bodies of 3 high-profile banking magnates were found in Ventura County, California. All were delegates attached to the Winton lower chamber and were from wealthy banking families. The three were allegedly aligned with a so-called rogue faction within the lower chamber opposed to Miss Belenoff's agenda. According to sources in Luxembourg, the murdered men are suspected of attempting to sabotage Miss Belenoff's private jet in early February 2018. Miss Belenoff was preparing to fly to her vacation home in Suriname when she noticed what she described as an anomaly in the pitch of her plane's engines as it idled on the runway. This is an amazing woman. She immediately instructed her pilot to shut down the jet's engine and ordered a complete checkup on her Gulfstream C6 G50ER. Folks, that's about a $50 million private jet, capable of international travel, long hauls, as they call them. It's an expensive jet. A thorough review of the luxury jet's mechanical systems revealed that had the plane taken off that day, it would have likely exploded in midair. On February 22nd, detectives from the investigative and judicial branch of the World Security Office, working under the direction of Colum, and I think that's McConich, issued an internal warrant for the arrest of one Mikhail Berzovsky, one David Gaver, and one Eric Wallenberg. On March 9th, the three men were apprehended at JFK Airport in New York and were fingerprinted, photographed, and booked into the Metropolitan Detention Facility in Brooklyn. 4 days later, on March 13th, 2018, officials at the detention facility announced that the three fugitives had been inadvertently released and their whereabouts unknown. On March 16th, Interpol issued red notices attached below, and we can actually see them, to its 190 plus member countries requesting the arrest of Gaviar, Borzowski, and Wallenberg. The fugitives were on the run for several months before meeting a violent end near the Western Tunnel entrance to the Santa Susana Railway near the Los Angeles and Ventura County line. It is likely the would-be assassins were killed on Miss Belenoff's order. And here it gets really interesting. According to official documents from the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, postcards depicting photos of Glamis Castle with references to Somerset Belenoff were found with the victims' clothing. The victims had been shot, stripped of their clothing, and left on railroad tracks where they were struck by a westbound Metrolinx commuter train. Police reports indicate, in addition to being shot, Mr. Gaviar was also hit in the head with a hatchet. Documents leaked by the Ventura Sheriff's Department were uploaded to the website, to 4chan in script, presumably to provide proof of the Witten's upper chamber that the killing had been carried out. Now, it's real interesting because if you look at this, this is the red notice. It's an arrest warrant. This is the one for, who do we have? Oh, this is Wallenberg. There you go. Signed off. Now, we have over here, this is the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. This is the body inspection report. Yeah, get a load of this one, folks. Gives you all the details about the individual. He was Swedish, white. Location of body at Discovery. Westbound railroad tracks approximately 500 feet from the west entrance to the Santa Susana train tunnel, unincorporated area of the Corriganville Park. Descendant nude body discovered near railroad tracks. Victim shot multiple times with large caliber gunshot wounds to the face and torso. Body likely undressed and placed on railroad tracks post-mortem. Time and location of shooting undetermined at time of discovery by Ventura County deputies. Metrolink commuter train number 115 struck the body at approximately 1340 hours. Body partially dismembered by impact. Metrolink engineered phone 911. Gary Hugo Boss, a Hugo Boss suit with bloodstains and what appeared to be gunshot holes found approximately 30 feet from body. Vintage postcards from Glamis Castle with handwritten reference to Somerset Belenoff located with clothing. Descendants to a Swedish passport in left breast pocket of suit. 2 other bodies found at same location. See the accompanying reports. So right there, I mean, these people don't play nice. Not at all. And it gets extremely interesting as you go further into it's deep. And I don't know. I'm going to continue to pursue this. This whole thing, is it in fact that is what many in our community, others in like communities, are we sensing something major at that level? Listen, say what you want about Ms. Belenoff. I will take the validity and the veracity of Peter's eyewitness account with Jimmy Page and Robert Plant more than I would take any other testimony. They got no reason to lie. There's nothing to be gained from it. It's time we start getting real about this, folks. Whether it's aliens, whether it's demigods, whether whatever, it is very obvious that there are humans amongst us that are tapped into something many of us have searched for, studied, continue. And to think we were thrown off from the very beginning. All of it's bullshit. All the Book of the Dead and all the other crapola that we so much think leads to the path, and we don't have a freaking bloody clue as to what's really going on. I mean, I don't have that many friends that can actually drop the temperature in a room to sub-freezing. I don't have that many friends that can shatter bones just by thought. This person lives. This person exists. And if this person has demonstrated that kind of power back in the late 60s, I can't even begin to think or fathom where that type of person's at. Yeah. Robert V says she has Rasputin's power. Well, it's obviously very apparent she has a power beyond any religion. Hey, the biblical God, take a freaking hike, man. Your yesterday news. You know, your Muslim, Allah, take a freaking hike. Kali and all the rest of them, take a freaking hike. Your yesterday news. Because if this woman is demonstrating these type of capabilities in open meetings and is not shy about it and backs it up, I would dare say if there was a representative of the highest power known to man, she's Got it. And if we are sensing her agenda, this is what I'm talking about, folks. All these other things are distractions. This has been proven, validated by eyewitnesses, self-proclamations of the individual themselves. Anyone care to play? I don't think so. You're going to get your ass kicked. And therein lies the problem. I don't know, Kent. I don't know if the white hats are moving because I don't know who the white hats are. Seriously. I mean, you have to study this to begin to get a grip on this, that there are powers that we're only sensing. We can't define. And thank you, Roger, for sending this. More people need to be aware of it. But I'm going to tell you this, her spell will work. Because the vast majority of people even watching this video will not believe it. They'll pass it off and just, oh yeah, that was another good show. What I'm really trying to say, there's a major piece here. And the thing about it that really gets me is that this one doesn't hide. This one doesn't hide at all. I don't know. You put your spin on it. But Kent, I wasn't pointing you out directly, brother. You know, I love you. Just saying, yeah, I hope that we can win, but you've got to, you know, when I was coming up through the corporate world, I had a boss that we had to read The Art of War. We went to a seminar on the art of war in sales. And I still remember the instructor. If you don't know your enemy, if you don't know your customer, you're never going to close the deal. And I'll just kind of reward this. If we don't know, now I don't know if this is friend or foe. I don't. And you know, listen, the gal is probably like me, has the same taste in music, lived at the same era. And so I can't say that this person's evil. I don't know that. I have no idea what her agenda is. All I do know is from the reports that she is a powerful sorceress. Maybe, indeed, the true high priestess. Ladies and gentlemen, this may be the emergence of the feminine emerging into a structure, a construct, that we haven't even begun to fathom yet. Maybe she is wearing the white crown. I don't know. I am going to take the boldness and the audacity, even though I understand I'm not of the pure nobility, to reach out and see what if I can reach her office. I am. I'm going to send out an email and see. She apparently does interviews from what I hear. So I'm going to try to get her on. Why not? I can't help but not think that we've got to look at this in a much broader perspective. What she was saying about all these organizations, Crowley, the Bilderbergs, the Council of Foreign Relations, all of them, they're male-driven and male-dominant. As is Satan, the devil. This woman is the epitome of Lilith. I don't know. I'd like to talk to her about what she thinks of Lilith. I'm going to do it. One thing I've never backed down at, you see, all my life, my wife and I were talking, I've operated with no safety net. I came into this world with no safety net. There is no, I don't know what a safety net is. I just saw an apparition just go by there. Anyway, and you never, failing is not failing. Failing just means I didn't figure it out. Got to figure it out. And I knock on doors. Don't bother me. I remember one CEO back in the days when I was coming up through the ranks, and he finally gave me a meeting and he says, you are the poster child of tenacity. So I've never seen any guy like you. He says, you accept rejection as though it's just, a treat. I got the contract, but that's the point. So we're going to go and we're going to try to see. I think that Miss Belenoff needs to be heard. I'd love to know what her agenda is. Now, she may never tell us. She may never come on. But I have a sense that she will get this message. Listen, you can go to the Kremlin, the White House, or any other central point of power of government unannounced, and the doors are open to you with royalty. Yeah, you're carrying more than just a purse. Well, far out, folks. Tune in tonight. We're going to get more into this. I'm going to get more of the background story, and you'll have a good idea. And I'll certainly keep this up. But David Barry says, yes, she already knows all about us. Now, David, are you just saying that psychically, or do you have a connection there? Come on, let's get with it. Hello, Debbie Bell. How are you doing? Adore you as well. Julie Payne. So, hey, Lois. So anyway, far out stuff. And I'm going to go this afternoon and I'm going to re-listen to my collection of Led Zeppelin albums. Folks, this is what happens. When you're given a key, a download, an insight, a rhema, run with it. Take it, put it in the latch and see if it turns. And if it does, push it through. Choose the door. Which option do you want? Woo! Man, am I buzzing. I mean, the top of my head is this literally like there's this current going through, because this is interesting stuff. That's all I got to say. It's interesting stuff. All right, folks, far out. Oh, I tell you what, that is just far out. Hey, Timothy Watts, how you doing? New Mexico farmer, how are you? I've never seen you before. Well, welcome. Honeymoon, I think that's going too quick. Hey, Gaza, how you doing? Kent Cook, how you doing? Going to get you back on it. Yeah, I think it would. So let's just everyone put energy behind me on this as I reach out to the Wittenhouse, and I'll find her email. I mean, I'll find some way to get to her, and let's see what happens. Boy, wouldn't that be? Now that would be far out. I'll tell you what. Woo! I mean, we'd have to go decaf on everything. And I don't drink caffeine anyway, but I mean, because I got a sense that the energy would be, hey, Trina Phoenix, how are you doing, my love? Good to see you. I think the spirits they'd be moving, man. And I want to let her know she'll be amongst friends here. I mean, I don't see anyone here in any way being prejudgmental or being predetermined. I hope not. I hope we've gotten above that. All right, folks. Wow. I'm never going to that Stairway to Heaven. Now I know who the May Queen is. I mean, I can actually hear the lyrics. I'm seeing it in my head and I'm going, wow. I mean, for almost 50 years, we've listened to that song. I had no idea. Woo, 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 woo. We may pick this up tomorrow. We can't drop it. We're going to pick it up tomorrow and we're going to explore and how to have someone on. If someone if you got some knowledge of this a little bit more than myself, then let's come on and talk. This is fun. I think it's a major piece of this puzzle. Again, I had no idea. All right. Much love, and I'll see y'all later. All right. Bye-bye.